You're listening to Backlog Banter with your host, SerialK86.
Hello, greetings, and saludos everyone to another episode of Backlog Banter. I am your host, SerialK, and it is now June 30th. Yeah, it's we're officially now in summer, so the weather should start getting hot now. Oh, and I think Happy Pride Month. It's the last day. I don't know. Anyway, so usually when I get a guest for this show, I usually get a friend from the YTP community. But for this episode, we're trying something a little different. He's my guest for this one is also a friend, but he happens to be a fan of the YTP community. I'm gonna let him introduce himself and talk a little bit about himself and what he does. So, yeah.
Hello, everybody. I think this is the part where I talk about, what I do and all that stuff. But yeah, hello. My name's Ethan, but I go by Gumshoe or Gumshoe Gamer online and stuff on the Twitters. And yeah, surprisingly, I recently, I guess last year, I want to say, found that people still make YTPs, and I just got into this wow, these are really great. It's what happened? I had no idea. And I have what I primarily do now is I have my own podcast that's been going for about 4 years now, and I also help some of my other friends with some of their projects in terms of editings and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm excited to be on. Thanks for having me.
Oh, definitely. So you said you have a podcast that's been going for 4 years, so you should have more experience with this than I do.
It's not anything big, but yeah, I started it because literally I wanted an excuse to talk about certain topics with friends of mine, and I was like, hey, I want to just start a podcast, and then it kind of just snowballed into there.
Oh, that's pretty much why I started my podcast too, because Twitter is not, because I'm active on Twitter, so I like to talk about a lot of video games on Twitter, but talking about it, one-to-one with a microphone, conversations and stuff like that, it's much more satisfying. It's much more, engaging than texting it on Twitter or social media and stuff like that. So, and considering I also been out of work for a while, and I have plenty of free time nowadays. And I said, what? Maybe I should start making a podcast. I've always wanted to talk about the topics and stuff like video games and, stuff like that. And so
that's what we aim to do here.
Yep.
We're going to talk about the video games.
The video games. Yep. So, you've said that last year you discovered that people still making YTPs?
Yes. I was I forgot that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because back when I was in middle school, I want to say, the only YTPs I vividly remember watching was Horror Coasters.
Oh, Horror Coaster, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know if Horror Coaster is still around though.
He was part of two of my collabs. Two collabs I've hosted.
Okay. But...
Yeah. The Isle of Video Game collabs, collab 3 and 4. But the last one I hosted was back in 2018. I think he haven't uploaded anything.
That has been, because then it's been 2 years, because how I found out that YTPs were still a thing was, I think it was that collab. I didn't know it was a YTP.
Ah.
But it was either, I think it was either 2 or 3 that I found.
Oh, No, he wasn't in 2, but he was in 3 and 4.
Okay.
He made entries using Zelda games. The first one was what's it called? Link's Awakening, and the other one was Ocarina of Time.
Oh yeah, then it was definitely 3. It was definitely 3. 3 was the one that kind of
Link's
made
Awakening.
me aware that YTPs were like a thing again.
Oh yeah, and I was impressed the fact that he used a video game that has little to no voice acting to make his entry. Because to me, I think it's a little harder to make YTP with little to no voice acting. Not everyone can pull it off.
Yeah, but sometimes true genius and innovation comes from limitations. So
True.
I know someone smart said that once.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so how long you been following me on Twitter?
I probably want to say like 2 years. If it's not now, then it will be soon.
No, I mean, I'm not asking you to follow me, but I notice you're always interacting with some of the tweets I do. I tweet and stuff like that. So, I was asking this because I wanted to say you've been interacting with my Twitter for more than a year, and I was wondering,
Yeah, it's definitely more. It's been more than a year, but I want to say it's approaching 2 years.
Interesting, because I've been making YTPs since 2013. I was wondering how did you became aware of my Twitter and stuff like that? Because when
I think it was literally because I found the video game collab, the Style of Video Game Collab 3, and then I saw, oh, you also have a Twitter. Might as well follow, because that's generally what I like to do.
Because I usually don't like to promote my Twitter on YouTube all that often. I used to be a lot more protective about it, but nowadays I'm a little bit more chill about it. Anyway, we've rambled for too long, so let's talk about the videos. So last time I started talking about my picks, but for this episode we're gonna go back to the original formula, which is letting the guests talk about their picks. And
all right,
what do you got for this episode? What games do you want to talk about?
I have 2 games from my backlog that I finally was able to finish off. One near the start of the year, and another one kind of recently, like a month ago, is when I finally finished it. But the first one I want to talk about is the Resident Evil 2 remake.
All right.
So
this one was both.
This is the one from 2019.
Yes.
Which is like a year.
The remake.
Old. Actually, more than a year old.
Yes.
It was more than a year old when I actually got around to playing it, because it came out like January of last year. Mm-hmm. So
it was published and developed by Capcom in 2019. Yeah. So. Oh.
This is the remake of Resident Evil 2, the original, which I have not played yet. The only classic-ish Resident Evil game that I played was the remake of the first game, which I did that last year, or the year before. Like 2019, and basically I made me like, okay, I want to try more of these games out. I started playing Resident Evil with Resident Evil 4 in, I want to say 2018 is when I actually got Resident Evil 4, and I really like that. Didn't like 5 or 6 as much, but then I kind of took a break from playing Resident Evil. But then seeing like how highly rated Resident Evil 2 was, this remake, I was like, you know what? I gotta give it a shot, and I did, and I just it just blew me away, like honestly.
Oh, okay, because I believe, yeah, maybe because you've said Resident Evil 4 was your first Resident Evil game that you played, right? And they're pretty much the
Yes.
same gameplay style. So probably that's why you liked it.
Yes, but unlike Resident Evil 4, where if we're talking just strictly gameplay wise, then unlike Resident Evil 4, where you had this more kind of aggressive play style, as in you can really get away with just being like that. You can't really do that in this game. There's a lot more resource management, so it's a lot more like the classic Resident Evil in retrospect. But at the same time, the movement and everything is not really like stiff or clunky, so I was able to kind of transition very, very well, and yeah.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, the original Resident Evil 2 was a different style. It was fixed camera, tank controls. It's not quite the same. It's pretty similar to the Resident Evil.
It came out in 1990. The original Resident Evil 2 came out in 1998. So
yes.
Literally, it's like what 21 years
yes.
later, and we got a remake.
Yep, it's one of the most popular games in the series besides Resident Evil 4. I played a little bit of the original back in the day, and I'm gonna be honest, the tank controls turned me off. I was like, nah, this game's not for me. But that was back in
that seems to be the general consensus, is like if you don't like games with tank controls and fixed camera angles, then the older Resident Evils 1 through 3 and even Code Veronica I've heard are kind of a bit hard and limiting on that end, which is why most people recommend starting with 4 if you because that seems to be the general consensus. At least it was until this remake came out, and now everyone's been recommending this a lot more.
Because I haven't jumped into the series yet, but I'm planning to doing that in the near future. But then I've heard that they're remaking 4. Is that true? There's been rumors.
Possibly, there's been rumors, but nothing's been confirmed.
Yeah. And I want to play the
Resident Evil. Honestly, though, the original Resident Evil 4 holds up so well even today that, like, I don't really think they need to remake it.
Yeah, I've heard many people say 4 is good as it is. I don't know why they should remake it. Though
I mean, if they end up remaking it, I would just really want them to maybe iron out the story, because there are some parts in the story that kind of don't make like a lot of sense. But it's fine. But like, if they want to make it to where Resident Evil 4 is a lot more of a serious story, then okay.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah, because I know 4 has some cheesy moments and stuff like that.
Oh no, yeah, 4 is super cheese.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't played the game, but I've seen a few cutscenes here and there. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, when one of the boss fights is literally a knife fight, it's like, come on.
Oh, it's like quick time events and stuff like that.
Yep.
Oh,
which was pretty revolutionary for the time Resident Evil 4 first came out. Because that was like quick time events within the cutscenes. I was like, what? Now it is kind of like that. Oh, okay. I gotta do this. And it's kind of annoying. So I could see them getting rid of that in like a remake and making it more cinematic, quote unquote. But
I will see. So back to Resident Evil 2. You said this one is more recommended for newcomers than 4. Why is that?
Yeah. I think it's on two fronts. It's the story and the gameplay. First off, the story is very easy to understand.
Okay.
It's not that complicated. basically depending on who you start out, either Leon or Claire.
Yes.
You just manage to go to this to Raccoon City. It's infected. You need to get out. That's the basic plot. It's just I need to stop. Just need to get out of this. Along the way, you find out more about, okay, why was there an outbreak? Depending on which character you start with, you'll meet another kind of companion character, and you'll have a bit of time to play around with them. And there's this kind of mystery that begins to unfold, but it's still pretty basic.
Okay, good. Because how much, without going to deep spoilers, how different is Leon's scenario from Claire's, and also the difference in gameplay?
The locations are pretty much exactly the same, with some slight differences in how you get to areas, but it's basically the same. The story contents, though, and a lot of the cutscenes are really the main difference. And depending on who you play first, if you decide to do the other one after playing one of them, because of the way the game is structured, you have an A scenario and a B scenario. Whoever you pick for the B scenario will have a technically harder time, but also get access to some different things depending on what you do.
Okay.
So yeah.
So how many times have you beaten this game?
I have beaten it 2 times. That's just one playthrough with each of them, and I plan on actually doing another one where I play as Claire first, and then I do Leon second. I've done Leon A and then Claire B playthrough.
Oh, so you want to do it the other way with the second playthrough?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my second playthrough, I'm probably just gonna do it the other way. And the good thing is that this is not a long game. This can take you probably on your first try. It probably could take you 12 hours.
Okay,
but
good.
That's on your first try. And then after that, when you get very familiar with the layout and everything, you could cut that down to 6 hours really, or maybe even shorter than that really, if you just want to go from point A to point B.
Okay.
It's not that long of a game.
Oh, okay, good. So,
which is also why I would recommend it over Resident Evil 4. Because Resident Evil 4, while that is such a great game, it is a bit longer. And I mean, it's good because everything that takes place in Resident Evil 4, I like, except for the Ashley sections, which thankfully there aren't nearly a lot of them. But when they happen, it kind of slows down the game. There is none of that in Resident Evil 2. It's a solid experience from beginning to end, and that also, and not just for narrative, but also the gameplay too, where I feel whenever, for example, whenever you have to encounter a boss, unless you're playing on the hardest difficulty, every fight will feel fair. It doesn't feel like it's impossible. And it still is engaging. There's still kind of this puzzle to it, to every single boss, that in every kind of encounter that you have, which makes the whole thing the most engaging thing. It basically came to a point where I want to say halfway through the game, I just was so it was one of those games where you just get so into it that you kind of forget what time it is.
Okay, so this game has there's no dull moment with this game. It's snappy.
Oh
it's
yeah,
quick.
I wouldn't say it's entirely from point A to point B. It's just there's no dull moment.
Cool. So do you think if someone started with the Resident, does it make any difference if someone started with Resident Evil 0 or the remake of the first game and then jumped to 2?
Thing is,
Or it doesn't matter?
I'd say not. I honestly say there wouldn't really be much of a difference. I guess if you were to start with like the first game, whether it be the remake or the original, then you get some context of like who's Chris, who is Stars, but all that stuff you can kind of gather, like collectively, like because they can kind of tell you like this is what Stars is in like a document if you want to read that. So it's not like you'll be lost, but you'll just get some context, some more context on what's going on.
Oh,
but it's not necessary if that's the thing. That's kind of what I view for Resident Evil 4 is the same way, where if you have knowledge of like the past games, then some things will kind of like it'll provide some context for like certain segments, but you don't need that to like enjoy the game.
Yeah, because I've heard for the most part, Resident Evil 4's story is mostly self-contained.
Oh yeah, definitely is like, except for the Ada stuff, which kind of comes back, or what Ada Wong does in 4, kind of retroactively. Like there's development stuff that happens that you don't see until Resident Evil 6. That's a whole nother beast. I don't even want to talk about that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
But in any case, Resident Evil 2 is just a really good starting spot. If you don't mind something that's a little bit more slower, it's definitely got that survival horror aspect into it. If you don't mind like those type of games, then play Resident Evil 2, the remake, because it's really good.
Oh. Because I'm gonna be honest, even though I said I've never played a Resident Evil game before, but I've played a series that's, at least in gameplay elements, is pretty much similar. The Dead Space series.
Oh, I played Dead Space 1. I've yet to actually get to 2 and 3, but
2.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Third-person shooter, over-the-shoulder cameras, some resource management. It's more horror-focused, but yeah. With this, without going into details, Dead Space 2 is a little more action, has some more action elements to it, but I really recommend playing the second game. It's really good.
I was gonna say though, if there is something I can kind of knock Resident Evil 2 down a bit, is I don't like what they did with the knife. The knife is like the worst thing ever, because wow, it's supposed to be like, okay, here's some melee weapon so you don't waste ammo, but it breaks in like 5 swings.
Well, that's lame.
And sure, you can find more of them, but it's like, why would I even want to? So you end up just not using the knife like at all. Just don't use the knife and save that inventory slot for something else.
Oh, yeah. Because with Dead Space, with Dead Space you can only use your weapon as to knock enemies and also stomp, but that's about it. There's no really melee weapon in that game, I think, as far as I know. But yeah, I guess probably. So, is it okay if someone started with the remake and then I think you said it doesn't matter story-wise, but gameplay-wise, is it okay if someone started with the remake and then jumped into Resident Evil 2 with the Resident Evil 1 remake and then jumped into the 2 remake?
Oh yeah, the one thing that you'll definitely notice, especially if you play the Resident Evil 1 remake, is that it still keeps the fixed camera angles.
Yes.
Well, kinda. There is an option to have the camera control a little bit more like free,
yes,
but it doesn't really work that well in my opinion. Just have it fixed, because when we say it's like Resident Evil 1 remake, it's basically just story and cutscenes are remake, but the layout of the mansion is pretty much the same, so it works a lot better with the fixed camera angles, and that's just better in my opinion. But regardless, I'd say if you wanted to start with the first game, go play Remake, because it's a lot more accessible in my opinion than the original.
Yeah,
I don't really think there's a reason to play the original PS1 unless you really are like, unless you're one of those people that like, I want to see where the series started, then that's fair. That's totally fair. But if you're just like, you know, I really want to play it with the first game before I play the other ones, then play the remake of 1. But if you don't mind that, if you're just like, I'd rather, you know, jump into somewhere where I know I'm gonna have, like, regardless, have a really good time, then definitely the remake of 2, because the remake of 2 just gets rid of the whole fixed camera, and you have, you know, the same kind of third person over the shoulder movement.
Oh, okay. Because I'm considering, you know, once I'm done with some games I have in my backlog, I maybe jump to the Resident Evil games. And I already have Resident Evil the remake, Resident Evil for the PlayStation 4. I had the remake of 1 and 0, and I also have Revelations and Revelations 2.
Though the Revelation games I have not played. Those and well, there's a couple Resident Evil games I haven't played actually, but those ones I hear are very mixed, so I can't really say. But I mean, I know there's some people that like them, but I also know that, like, not a lot of people like them, so I don't know.
Oh yeah,
but I definitely do have to get around to playing those at some point, because I'm always interested when things are mixed.
Yeah, because you have to, you know, you have to try it yourself to, you know, judge it by yourself. So, guess that's Resident Evil. I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking forward to getting to that series one day, because a lot of my friends were into that series, and I've never played that. And beyond, like, trying, like, Resident Evil 2, the original one back in '98, yeah, I've never, you know, bothered with the series. But, you know, surprisingly, for some reason, I got into Dino Crisis 2, which is almost the same style with the tank controls and fixed cameras, but somehow ended up kind of enjoying it. Have you played any Dino Crisis game?
I haven't played Dino Crisis, but I have heard that it's very similar to Resident Evil, just a lot more action focused and with dinosaurs.
Yes, same.
So I don't know. I do think it would be interesting if Dino Crisis 1 and 2 got some type of re-release or remaster, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
Well, you never know. But you know, the Dino Crisis series isn't as big as Resident Evil. But you never know. Capcom been you know, been killing it recently with the Devil May Cry 5 and you know, the Monster Hunter World and the remakes of the Resident Evil games. They've been, you know, doing well so far, especially after how they were you know, received, you know, for their blunders in the previous gen. You know how because they really kept messing up with the Resident Evil, with Devil May Cry.
Well, yeah, with the reboot that I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I actually really liked the reboot.
Devil May Cry, the reboot.
Like in both an ironic sense and also like actually this is a really fun game, guys.
Oh yeah. While most of the fandom hate this game, I've heard some, you know, people, you know, defend it. So it's not that bad, guys. I mean, sure.
Purely gameplay focused.
Yeah, it's mostly gameplay focused.
It's not bad. It actually it has a lot of it's a much easier and accessible Devil May Cry game. But then it also has a lot of challenge, especially if you bring it up to like the hard difficulty and all the other ones. Then it can really get challenging. So that's what I like. The story, though, is one of the things where, okay, I like what they tried to do, but then it's also like, my God, this is so cringy that I can't hate it. It's just like, I can't believe they did this.
Yeah, that's mostly why the fans of the series hate it. Because it tries really hard to be edgy and stuff like that, and you know how they depict it. Yeah, you know, I've never played it myself. But to be honest, I really don't feel like getting into it anytime soon. I don't hate it, I just don't feel like getting into it.
If you ever decide to do that, I always recommend starting with Devil May Cry 3.
No. I've already gotten to the series. I just the only game I've never played was the reboot by Ninja Theory.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm big into the
That's
Devil May Cry
totally-
games. The only one I've ever played was the reboot. That's about it. I'm a big fan of Devil May Cry. I'm glad that the 5.
Cool.
I'm glad that with 5 they returned back to the original cast and story and stuff like that, and the combat and the flair. And, really good time. I had a really good time with 5. I've actually played the previous 4 games before I got to 5 last year. And
Nice.
Yeah, even 2. 2
Wow.
Yeah,
Got through that?
Yep, twice. Once back in 2003 and last year. And yep, this game did not
Dang.
age well at all.
Yeah, the last video that I ever did on my YouTube channel, at least until now, maybe I'll get back to actually making videos at some point, but it was on Devil May Cry 2, and it took me forever to like actually muster to finish that game because oh my god.
Ugh. Jeez. Yeah.
I honestly can't believe how much that game has just aged so badly, especially since like Devil May Cry 1 has definitely aged, but yet that's way more enjoyable than Devil May Cry 2.
Yeah, because the 1 has its own, issues, but it was mostly because it was the first game and because it was originally going to be a Resident Evil game, because that's why it's set in one mansion and fixed. It has some areas has puzzles and fixed camera in some places. But it was the first game. The second game they had no excuse. So
The second game they tried to. They're like, okay, we're gonna have it be more expanded. We're gonna give Dante like an actual dodge button, and you can run up walls. Have more expansive levels. Like, okay, that's all good in theory, but yeah, everything else was just not good at all.
At all. Yeah. I don't know why
But
they.
anyway,
I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know why they keep remastering that game.
yeah, we'll see.
Hey, but at least we got Devil May Cry 3 out of it after it, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway. we were
But I think that's all I have to say about Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah, this became a
solid game.
Yeah. This devolved into a Capcom games discussion. That's a little side tangent we had. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, luckily the next one I picked is not a Capcom game, or else that would be really awkward. I guess.
Yeah.
Actually, it wouldn't be awkward. It'd be fitting because then we could have segued into it like a master. But who cares?
Okay, so your next game is
Final Fantasy VIII. I would say the original version, but technically I played the Steam version, not the most recent Steam version. Yeah, there's like 3 versions of this game, so it's complicated. But anyway, yeah, Final Fantasy VIII. Despite being a person that really likes JRPGs, haven't actually played a lot of Final Fantasy games. So basically, like this year, I wanted to try and get and do another Final Fantasy, and I was debating whether to do 8 or 10. Because a lot of people like 10.
Yes.
But I've had 8 sitting in my Steam for longer than I had 10, and 10 too. So she said, you know what? I'll do 8. And wow, I have like a lot of mixed feelings about Final Fantasy, but I can say just overall, I do think it is a very good and solid, with a few quirks that may hinder your experience depending on what you're looking for a JRPG.
Oh, because yeah, I've also heard. I've never played it, but I've heard mixed reception about this game.
Yeah, as someone who hasn't played 7 yet, and I don't really have a desire to play Final Fantasy 7, but I have played 9 and I have played 6, and I played 4 and I played 1 and 2. I played 2 and didn't finish 2 because no way. I was 2 such a terrible game. But Final Fantasy 8 to me is one of the games where it's like, man, they have a lot of just great ideas, and I really like the cast and the characters, and I think the basic story and where they like to go with it is really fun and engaging. But there's also like instances where things will just kind of happen without much build up, and some of it feels rushed, and then you also get kind of this. They also get kind of just some interesting things that just kind of just see, like again, it's a lot of this game like feels like it in a plot sense. It kind of feels like it happens with, and you're kind of left wondering what was that all about, and then you wait till like you get to disc 3 or 4, and then you figure out what happens, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. If we're talking purely story, I think this one is a bit of a mixed bag, but generally for me, I like the cast so much that I didn't really care that much that the story was kind of meh at some places, because the character moments I thought were really strong, especially Squall Leonhardt, the main character. I found like really likable, and I don't know, like I actually really like him as a main character. So sue me.
Oh.
Also, gunblades are cool, so like, come on.
Yeah, I've heard debates about whether they're cool or not. I'm neutral to that aspect, to that debate. Probably because I've never played it. Yeah, like Resident Evil, Final Fantasy is yet another series I've never got into, but my friends were into it. And one of my friends recommended I get into if there's any Final Fantasy game I should get into, it's either gonna be 10 or 15. I don't know, which one should I get into? Which one should a newcomer get into the series?
I'm probably not the best person to ask, because I haven't played a lot of them, and most of the ones that I have been because other people have been telling me that I should. But from what I've played and beaten, I should say what I've played and actually like finished, I honestly say start with Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, because
even though Final Fantasy VI is an SNES game,
SNES game,
kind of old.
Yes.
Yeah, it is kind of old. I still think it holds up, and as long as you're okay with it being an SNES game and kind of having, you know, some of the limitations that, you know, modern JRPGs don't have. 15 is a very mixed bag though, but not for the same reasons as like 8. It's because I feel like that game is not both like too short and also way too long.
Too short but too long.
Like, what's supposed to put it? Like, if you're just going from main story to main story, I feel like the plot is just super rushed. But there's like so much just like fluff added that if you decide to like go and explore a bit and do side quests, then I feel like the game can take like too long. I don't know. It might just be a pacing thing, but yeah, I don't think that the game 15's of that paced that well. Despite the gameplay being pretty good, pretty standard for a action JRPG. I think from what I've seen of Final Fantasy VII Remake, it looks like they ironed out a lot of the kinks that 15 had, but that's good.
Oh, okay. So back to Final Fantasy VIII. Gameplay-wise, does it have any unique features or features and stuff like that?
Oh boy, yeah, it does. It's this Final Fantasy VIII is a Final Fantasy game with a combat system unlike any other Final Fantasy game. for better and for worse, though I actually don't mind the system. Okay, so you know how in most JRPGs you like buy weapons, you buy armor, and you know, like that's how you kind of like level up, you know, like outside of like leveling up your stats and all that, you also buy that. Okay, Final Fantasy VIII is a game where you do not buy armor. You can upgrade your weapons by getting like materials and drops from enemies that you defeat, but you don't really need to do that unless you want to go out of your way to like upgrade. I don't feel like you need to though. And your stats don't 100% naturally just go up because you're level. Instead, what you have is what is referred to as the draw system, because it's going to take me a bit to explain, so I'm sorry, but this is like it's pretty complicated, but I'm going to try and simplify it to the best of my ability. So the way your stat distribution works, and even how you use magic and everything, is tied to what the game refers to as guardian forces. So basically, you'll get like Ifrit, and basically Ifrit is a summon that you can tie to like a certain character. So let's say, okay, I'm gonna make our main character Squall, like he's gonna have Ifrit. Because he has Ifrit, that means that certain stats like strength or HP, you can tie magic, which you can draw from enemies to that certain stat. So if you have if let's say you want to have maxed out strength, you need 100 of that spell, so you can max that stat out. And in order to get 100, you need to draw that spell X number of times until you max it out, and then you junction it to that. Yeah, it's complicated. It is complicated.
Yeah, I figured.
Trying to explain it to the best of my ability is like, what the heck? This seems like so much micromanaging. But if you get to a point where you understand what and how everything works, you can 1, have some fun with it, 2, really break the game in half.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get into. Yeah,
it's very easy to break this game in half, which is part of the reason why I actually didn't mind it. But the other thing is, like, you can, like, technically drawing magic from enemies is kind of cool, because this means every single character, every single party member can use the same type of magic. You have a lot of variety. So if you want to use magic, you can just say, okay, I want this character to have double or triple or like the thunder spells, and then this other character can have the fire spells, or you know, all of them could have each of them, and that's fair. You know, that's kind of fun. I do like that there's like that level of custom. There's that level to it. But the other thing is that one of the easiest ways to break the game in half is later on, if you once your guardian force levels up, it can learn item refinements, which basically means that we'll take an item and then we'll break it down so you get X amount of spell charges. Tents, which are like a full heal for your entire party, you can break them down and you can get the highest you can get 10 of the highest level healing spell, which I should mention, you can get that in Disc 1, and you can get basically maxed out HP in the beginning of the game.
Really? Wow.
Yes. And it's not hard to do. If you just gotta like make sure that you get these certain abilities sooner than later. But if you do it, then yeah, you can just have, oh, okay, well, now my HP is like in the is like 1,000 plus, and we just started the game pretty much.
Wow. I believe.
So yeah.
Does this game, does Final Fantasy VIII require you to do a lot of grinding? Or?
Actually, no, it doesn't. In fact, I would say don't grind, because this is also one of those games that scales with your main character's level. Like enemies will scale, and bosses will also scale with your main character's level.
Oh.
So so you don't really need to grind. Instead, what grinding is in this game is going to an encounter, maybe putting it to sleep or something, and then drawing as much magic as you can. That's basically grinding in this game. It's not like fighting an enemy and then fighting another enemy, then fighting another enemy. It's
over
like finding the enemy that has that spell that you want, and then getting as much of that, and then you can leave if you want, really.
It's definitely...
So like on one hand, it's like I like that because it's very interesting, and I like that each encounter, each new enemy, there's probably like a new spell that I can get and I can use. That's fun, but at the same time, it kind of takes a while to do that, so it's a bit of a give and take.
I guess, I think that's why I think it's, some people have mixed feelings about this game.
It definitely is. Like, I can totally say that if what I just explained to you, especially everyone else that's listening, is like, this sounds like a nightmare, why would the heck would I want to play this? Don't play 8. If this is just like, I don't want to have to deal with any of this, don't play 8. Or if you want to play 8 anyway, use a guide.
Yeah, I figured this is the kind of game that you're probably gonna need a guide to progress through it.
I ended up not using a guide for my playthrough, but on the other hand, I missed out on like a lot of stuff. There's a lot of just extra little things you can do in this game that I didn't even know about. The only one that I ended up getting was Odin, which is like later on in the game. You can go to this little island, and after solving a puzzle here, you can get Odin, which will randomly appear in regular battles and will just one-shot everything before you even have a chance to move, and you get all the XP and stuff.
Oh.
It was a nice little reward, and there's also an Easter egg if you decide to do that later in the game, which I won't spoil for anyone that if they actually want to play this, but yeah. It was kind of cool, honestly, like just finding that on my own, being like, oh, what the heck? There's like, I get this one-hit KO thing. Cool.
But I think that makes the game a little, a little. Doesn't that Odin spell, breaks the game entirely?
It's not a spell though. It will just randomly happen for a regular battle. It doesn't happen at boss fights, so you can't expect to have like a boss fight and then just Odin just appear.
Oh, okay.
And since it is random,
random.
you're not guaranteed for it to happen. So it's kind of like, oh, it's cool that it happens, and it doesn't. In my opinion, it doesn't really break the game because you can't get it until like you're more than halfway in at like the earliest, and you're probably not gonna, unless you're like me, which likes to explore the overworld a lot. You're probably not gonna run into it because I don't think there's even an NPC that tells you about the location. So you really have to kind of go out of your way to find it.
I see.
But yeah, unless you're using a guide, then you'll find it out. But yeah, there's a lot of like little things about 8 that just seem very cool. Especially, I didn't even talk about the card game, Triple Triad, which is like, that's a whole nother thing with its own set of mechanics. Another way for you to get like items and magic and money that you don't even need to do, but it's just there. So yeah, there's like all these little cool things that I'm like, man, I kind of appreciate that there's so much to do in this game, despite it being actually a pretty short JRPG for JRPG standards. Like, I think you could, if you just wanted to do the plot and don't really care about any of the extra stuff, you could probably beat this game in like 30 30 hours, I want to say, maybe even less.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not that long. Despite it being 4 discs, the 4th disc is literally just endgame.
oh, okay. So do you think
So
this?
yeah,
Do you think this game will ever get the remake treatment like 7?
I hope it does, because this is one of those games where like there's just a lot of good ideas, and I feel like the draw system can work a lot better in an action sort of setting instead of turn-based.
Oh, see.
Because then you can be whenever instead of having to draw magic like for your turn, you can just be awarded that magic when you defeat an enemy.
Ah. So I think the draw system
and then-
works better with
then
the
I think
action
Oh, it
RPG.
works better.
Interesting.
But yeah,
Well, we'll see. Because the Square's not done with the 7 yet. It's probably gonna take a while.
we're gonna get part 2 to that in like 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably good.
But I definitely think 8 like deserves it deserves another shot, because there's a lot of really good things about it, but it's not like the most accessible one, despite it being pretty short, and I think also having a pretty fun plot, with some good twists and turns. And I do like the cast a lot, but my recommendation comes up with a huge asterisk of you gotta be able to kind of sit through this draw system, and if you don't want to put the time in to learn all that, just use a guide. There's no fault in doing that.
Yeah, so obviously 8 is not an accessible entry in the series.
It's definitely not one I'd recommend for people to try out first. This is not a good one to have to be your first Final Fantasy.
I see. So I guess that's about it for Final Fantasy 8. Is there anything else you want to talk about? The game?
Not much. Only the fact that it's kind of interesting that this game was like a pretty late PlayStation. Well, okay, I say late PlayStation title, but it actually wasn't. Final Fantasy IX was a late PlayStation title. Like I think that was 2002. Which is why it didn't sell that well, because the PS2. I think the PS2 was already out at the time 9 came out. But yeah, it is a very, very interesting game, and if you do want to get it, I recommend playing the version that I played, which is the original Steam version, which you still can get, not the remastered version, which, while it looks a bit nicer, I've heard that there are some performance issues with it, which may or may not have been patched out by the time this gets uploaded. I'm not entirely sure. I forgot to kind of double check that, but in any case, the original Steam version is very easy to mod. So if you want to mod it so it actually looks better, or maybe you like you want the music to be more like the PS1 original, then you can easily just do that. The second thing is you can actually kind of not grind in the game, because that version gives you an option to have your save file. Basically, you can just like you can basically just give characters these magic charges instead of just having to grind them out normally. If you want to, that's an option in that version. It's just like, I don't want to grind. I'm gonna give Squall in this like save file 100 of the Ultima spells. You can do that if you want to. It's there. So yeah, that's basically all I want to say about Final Fantasy VIII. I don't think it's like a terrible Final Fantasy game, but I definitely understand why some people would probably not like the game at all.
I see. Actually, I checked on Final Fantasy 9. It came out in. Let me check. It came out in July 2000. So it's not
Oh, 2000.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because
the
the PlayStation 2 came out in 2000 in late 2000 in Japan. I think 2001 everywhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's about it for your picks. Yeah, moving on to my pick. So I only have one game to talk about, but it's a little bit of a meaty one. And it's Yakuza Kiwami. It was released on the PlayStation 3 and 4. Originally released in 2016 in Japan, and 2017 on the PlayStation 4 everywhere else, and on PC in 2019, and a few months ago on the Xbox One. It is published by Sega. Yeah, published by Sega and developed by Ryugo Kotoko Studio, which is the studio behind the Yakuza series. And the game is a remake of the original Yakuza, which came in 2005. So in this game, you play as the main character of the series, Kazuma Kiryu, in which, in the story, without going into much detail, he gets framed for the death of the patriarch of the family he works with, and ended up behind bars for 10 years. And after Kiryu gets out of the jail, he discovers that the Tojo clan, the clan, the family he works for, is at a brink of a civil war, and there's like 10 billion yen missing and a mysterious girl and stuff like that. So we have to figure out, have to stop that, try to stop the civil war from happening, and discover what's the mystery behind this, the 10 billion yen and the missing 10 billion yen and that missing girl. And this game, like I said, it's a remake of the first game that came out in 2005. And it's basically an action-adventure game. It is set, like I said, I think in my first episode, this game, the series, at least the first game, Sega tried to advertise it first as a Japanese Grand Theft Auto, which is not an accurate description of how you describe the series, because it's not an open, it's not a sandbox open world game.
I honestly think I would describe the Yakuza series more as a sandbox, than just a straight up GTA, because GTA now is like pure open world with everything. But yeah,
I'd say
surprisingly, if any, do you know the game Sleeping Dogs?
I've heard of it, yes. I actually have it, but I've yet to play it.
Yeah, if any of you played that, which I doubt, because I don't know a lot of people that actually have, but it's almost like structured like that game, except with a much smaller essential area that you explore, but it's super dense.
Yeah. There's a lot to do because, unlike, because for this one you only play, because unlike let's see, because in this one you only play in one district, in one area, the red light Kamurocho, which is basically the fictional version of the red light district in Japan, and he plays one character. And aside from story missions, you only there's also a lot of what is called sub-stories, basically side missions that you do that involves some stories and stuff like that. It's not important to the main most of them are not important to play, but you get a lot of rewards for it, like items and stuff like that, because the Yakuza series is known for having, at least until 6, they're known for having a RPG, some sort of RPG elements. items that gives you, you upgrade your abilities and you equip, and you get items that helps you with experience points and stuff like that. And also,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. There's also mini games, plenty of mini games. Like there's one where it's basically rock paper scissors, Miss King. It's basically a card game, kind of like a card game, but it's mostly a rock paper scissors with half-naked chicks dressed as bugs. That's there's also UFO capture, and it's simple. This one is really simple. And what else? Oh, there's also card games like. There's also gambling games like poker and blackjack, and there's also Japanese one like what's it called? Show and Han, stuff like that. I think these games, the Japanese game, and also there's also Mahjong. I believe these games used to be were removed for the original version of Yakuza 3. Because they thought they were, so inaccessible for the Western audience. But for the remaster, they added them back. They also added them for the other games in the series. Yeah. So like I said before, this game is a remake of the original game. And obviously the difference is the graphics. It obviously looks much better, and they used and they re-recorded the dialogue and voice acting. It's in Japanese instead of being dubbed in English like in the original. With Mark Hamill as Majima and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm glad that they went with the Japanese original Japanese voice acting for the Western.
The funny thing is though,
for the Western version, yeah.
I have to say is that I don't think the dub kind of has its own charm, and it's something that like I do want to play at some point. The original Yakuza, just to see how well it compares. But yeah, definitely. I think that just going along with Japanese audio and not dubbing it was just such a smart thing. As like, I do think that there is kind of this like fear that like, oh no, if we don't dub it, then it's not as accessible. But I think not dubbing it kind of helps it be accessible to like more people. I don't know, it's kind of weird because like I think people are fine with reading subtitles,
especially nowadays,
for something like this. Yeah, like nowadays. Maybe not so much before. I don't know. I can't speak to those people, but nowadays it's like if I have to read subtitles, sure. Like
especially
there's more and more people that are fine with it.
Yeah, especially if you watch a lot of anime.
Oh yeah,
that helps.
Yakuza is like one giant anime.
I think I've heard. Okay, I don't watch a lot of anime nowadays, but I've heard of some people say that Kiryu is pretty much a shonen protagonist.
I mean, kind of. I think Zero, like where like he was in Zero, is definitely more shonen. Like I get that. I mean, he is supposed to be like pretty young, so that's more understandable. In this one, not really, because from K1 and onwards, he's more of a father figure, which isn't typically like the shonen protagonist.
Yeah.
But like, I kind of understand what they're getting from, but it's not like 100% accurate.
Yeah.
But it is something that I really do like about this game is. Is Kazuma's character. Like,
yeah, he's more aged, he's more wiser, he's a lot less reckless.
Especially if you played Zero beforehand.
Yes.
And you're coming into this game.
Yes. Especially, yeah. most definitely. Obviously, yeah. If we're gonna talk which game we should start with, okay. Before I talk about, like I've said it before, but before I played Zero and Kiwami, the only Yakuza games I played was the original on PlayStation 2, the original Yakuza, and Yakuza 2. But after on the original Yakuza 2 on PlayStation 2, but after that, I didn't bother with this. I kind of ignored the series for a while until recently, a few years, I said I have to jump back into the series, and so I started with Zero earlier this year, which I talked about on the first episode, and Kiwami, which I finished like a few days ago, which I had a good time with it. But obviously, if you want to get into the series, you can't go wrong with Zero. It's I've said it before, but I've said it again. Zero is the perfect starting point into this series.
Zero is where I started, so I also have some bias. I know there is some precedent to, like, if you don't want a longer game, because that's the thing about Zero, is that Zero is also kind of a commitment.
Yes, it's
you gotta commit to the game. You're playing not just one campaign, but basically two campaigns.
Yeah, you play two characters in two areas, and there's also you also, aside from sub stories, there's also you should do the other side activity that's business.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's so much to do in Zero.
Yes.
And I mean, it's not like there isn't like a lot to do in Kiwami, because there is too. But
yes,
it with Zero, it's basically you're doing double.
Yes, there's a lot to do. Yes. Yeah. Because Zero is a lot meatier. Kiwami, honestly, it felt more like an expansion than a full game.
After coming from Zero, yes, definitely.
Yeah, because it took me less than a month to beat Kiwami. Unlike Zero, it took me like 3 months to beat. Like
it will probably take you even. It'll probably take you even shorter to beat Kiwami 2 if you ever decide to play that one.
Yeah.
Even though that one also has a lot more. Like that one, Kiwami 2 actually brings back the Hostess Club, but it's just so that's back, and that has its own stuff in it too.
Oh, okay, interesting. Cause let's see. Cause if I remember, Zero I spent like 200 hours, more than 200 hours to beat. So that's pretty much a JRPG at levels.
It's like, whoa, that's like Persona 5 numbers.
Yep, more than 200. I beat all the sub-stories. I completed both businesses. I did everything. I was pretty much swimming in trillions of yen at that time. I was pretty much done. For Zero, not for Zero. For Kiwami, it took me like barely 100.
Yeah, half of that.
Yeah.
I think that is the best way to kind of explain about Kiwami. And this is not to say that like Kiwami's the worst game. I think Kiwami's a fantastic game.
Yes, definitely.
But I also have to agree with you that it does, especially once you played Zero, you're kind of like, oh, that's it? Like, what? That's the end of the story?
Yep. It feels
kind
like
of came at me fast.
Yeah, I was surprised when the fact that I went through it that quick. I was like, wow, I'm already having the game. I'm already in the half point of the game, and I was like, what, a week or two when I started playing that game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's supposed to be the remake of the first game, so they couldn't do do
Sure,
much.
you're not expecting the levels of stuff that you can do with
Zero,
like you could in Zero. And again, we're not saying that there isn't other stuff to do, because you said you put like approximately like 100 hours in, so there is a lot of side stuff to do.
Oh yeah.
Especially, but it's also one of those where, like, if you really just don't care about that, then you can kind of beat this game in like 12 hours.
Yeah, if you rush through it, you're probably gonna finish it quick. So
which is probably why I'll say this to go back to the point about starting. A lot of people suggest Kiwami to start with because it's not as much of a commitment.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah, plot-wise, Zero is a good starting point, but gameplay-wise and and stuff like that, yeah, Kiwami is a little bit more accessible. I can see that.
Two sides of the same coin, you could say.
Yes. So if you want, if you're looking for story, if you're looking for an engaging story, Zero is the perfect starting point. But if you're looking for something easy to consume, to get into, gameplay-wise, yeah, I can see Kiwami is a little more forgiving in that department.
Man, if we're gonna talk about gameplay, then here's something that I want to ask you. The level up mechanics. Did you like it better Zero or Kiwami?
I'd say I'm leaning more towards Kiwami.
Okay, because same. I did not like.
Yeah, because
I don't know if it's just me, but I did not like having to spend my money on myself to upgrade because it felt weird, especially when you're like later on in the game and I'm just grinding money because I want to max out my stats.
Yes, because yeah, in Zero you need money for pretty much everything. Yeah, upgrades and stuff like that. You need money. Even the Mr. Shakedown characters, they're basically you need them to grind money easily.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember there was sessions where the only thing I did was just fighting Mr. Shakedowns. I lose, I lose intentionally, and then I get back, and then I get back my money and with some extra, and stuff like that. Because there's items that you get later from getting what is called CP points. Doing activities, and when you spend those CP points, you also get unlock some items for for Kiryu. You unlock an item that doubles the money you get from Mr. Shakedowns, the Mr. Shakedowns characters. And for Majima you get shoes that the more you walk, the more money you get. And there's also the Mr. Moneybags characters that you can transaction. You can transaction money from both characters. And yeah, money is very important and easy to grind. And it's plot-wise, it kind of makes sense because the Zero set in the 80s and the 1980s, the Japanese economy was pretty much booming. Everyone was making money.
So yeah, and
real estate.
And also I like the fact that you literally are investing in yourself.
Yes.
It's like, wow, okay, but I like how streamlined Kiwami is. I think that's the best thing about it.
Yeah, and rather than when it comes to for upgrading your abilities, rather than using money, you get experience points that you get from completing sub-stories and random encounters.
You use that to just to upgrade your skills.
Yes.
And that's pretty basic. Though in certain skills, you what don't you have to? If I remember correctly.
Yeah. We'll get to that. So for most abilities, you're gonna need experience points that you can get from sub stories, or if you can grind by fighting random mooks and stuff like that. Except one. Now, before we get to what's that ability that you need special, you need something special for it. For Kiwami, they did something different when it comes to gameplay of combat. So Zero introduced four different fighting styles for Kiryu, because I think up until for the previous games, Kiryu had only one fighting style, the dragon style. But for Zero, they introduced 3 different other fighting styles. There's the Rush, which is focused on. There's Brawler, which is basically the balanced one. It's not too fast but not too slow, but you can also block and you can stuff like that. And there's also the second style, which is Rush, which is basically a quick. It's about the dodging and doing quick punches and punches and kicks, but it's focused on dodging and stuff like that. And there's the Beast, which is a style that's slower but more focused on using melee weapons. More than even Brawler, because you could do that in Brawler, but it's more encouraged with the Beast style. So these 3 styles didn't exist in the previous games. So they brought them for Yakuza Kiwami, for the remake. Alongside the 4th style, which is the Dragon style. Now for Zero, you don't get the Dragon style right away. You unlock it after completing the business side activity for Kiryu. Once you complete it, you unlock the Dragon style, which is supposed to be Kiryu's original fighting style. Now, when you start Kiwami, you already got all 4 abilities, or for all 4 fighting styles. However, since plot-wise, you've spent 10 years in jail, you pretty much your fighting techniques and stamina, it's pretty much became, got rusty with time. So your character is completely nerfed compared to like Zero and the beginning of Kiwami. So for the other styles, for the first 3 styles, Brawler, Rush, and Beast, you upgrade them using experience points. For Dragon, which is supposed to be the 4th one, the most interesting heat gauge moves and stuff like that, and it's supposed to be Kiryu's signature fighting style, you can't upgrade it using experience points. Instead, you have to fight a character, an important character in the series, which is Goro Majima. Now he was a playable character. He was a playable character in Zero. However, here in Kiwami, you have something that's called the Majima Everywhere system. Basically, you get basically random encounters with Majima. Each time you fight him, he's basically a mini boss. Each time you fight him, you unlock an ability for the dragon style.
And people are very mixed on this. I know people that really like this system, and others that just absolutely hate this system.
Yeah, because I remember there were play sessions where like I did nothing but fight Majima randomly, like 5 or 6 times.
I do love though, because like the first time it ever happened to me, I went through like an hour or 2 kind of forgetting about like the Majima system, went to a bar, then oh, he's there.
Yep. He appears at a bar, he appears as a hostess. As Goromi.
Yeah.
And
but like at the same time, I also like at the beginning I was like, okay, this is kind of annoying, but later on I kind of warmed up to it, and I'm like, you know what, this actually isn't that bad.
Yeah, he also suddenly ambush you ambush you from random places, from like a dumpster, like a dumpster can, or from a manhole or something like that.
Yeah. And theoretically, you actually can avoid him if all you do is just go from story to story.
Yes.
Point. You actually will. It is very, very possible for that to happen. But if you're probably going to encounter him a few times, even if you still do that. But it is possible. Like I know that in like speed runs, basically they never encounter Majima.
Really?
Yeah.
You can speedrun into the game without countering Majima once? Okay, maybe the first time when it gets to Kamurocho after getting out of prison, but that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much. That and then that's it. Which means you don't get the dragon, which means you can't really use the dragon style. But you know.
Yeah, because the dragon style, when it's not upgraded, it's really, really terrible. It's really nerfed.
It is the worst.
Yeah,
it's objectively the worst.
Completely.
Unless you upgrade it all the way, and then.
Yes, it's completely nerfed at first. You're gonna rarely use it. But once you started upgrading it with either fighting Majima or a side character called what's it called? Shoot.
Oh, I forget his name, but he's the old trainer, right?
Yes, he appears in Zero, and he also, I think, appears in other games in the series.
Yeah, he does. Again, if you play K2, he's also in that too.
Yeah, he also teaches you some more techniques for the dragon style. He also
fully powered up dragon style is awesome.
Yes.
Like, it's worth it. It is very much worth it getting that.
Especially when you learn the his name is Komaki or something like that. That guy, he appears in Yakuza 0 and also appears in other games in the series. Once he teaches you different techniques, but the best one of them all is the Tiger Drop.
Oh god.
Yeah, once.
That's the one you want.
Yeah, definitely. Once it needs some getting used to, but once you nail it, it pretty much it's gotta be a go-to technique, especially when you use it in Coliseum. I love the Coliseum minigame in the series. Zero was cool, but
I sucked at the Coliseum minigame when I first played. I was like, okay, I think I get it, and then I want to say my 5th time going through them, I was just like, okay, I'm getting just totally creamed. What the heck is going on? But then later, like when you upgrade your moves and you get better abilities and such, it's fun. So I actually really do like the minigame a lot.
Yes. Obviously, once you upgrade your abilities, this pretty much becomes a lot easier. Especially if you upgrade your the Russian dragon styles, because these are my go-to styles for combat.
Well, especially
Rush, because it helps you not only avoid getting attacked, but also you build your heat gauge. Now the heat gauge, you use it to use what is called heat action, which is it's a special action that you do when you build up that heat meter. You can either stop characters if they're on the ground, or you can kick them to the wall, or if you're next to a wall, or you can do a special action with a melee weapon. Each style has their own heat actions. Obviously, the best one of them all was the ones who were using the heat actions for the dragon style. There's also... Oh yeah, what else is there? Okay, heat action. There's also, they introduced what is called the Kiwami heat actions. These weren't in the original, these weren't in either the original or in Zero. Sometimes in which some boss characters, they start glowing in a certain color, and their health bar starts, they start regaining health. They start gaining health from their when they start doing those special steps, special moments. And depending on what color they start glowing, this is an indication they have to use a certain switch to a certain style and use what is called the Kiwami heat action. If you have obviously enough energy in your heat bar. And then in which your Kiryu start doing a special heat action. Obviously, my favorite one is the one when he the Kiwami heat action for the rush style.
Yeah, why is the rush style like the best one? I swear to God.
I know, it's that and the dragon style. Both of these styles, they're my go-to. Beast is when I want to mix things up a little bit. Same for Brawler. Brawler, by the end, once you upgrade Dragon, you're gonna find yourself rarely using Brawler style. Because it's basically like a pro.
At the very least though, I do want to ask you this though, since you have played Zero, and that, do you think that Kiwami is okay? Well, I mean, I guess you kind of answered it, but like, where would you rank Kiwami alongside of like Zero? Do you think it's like just as good, maybe slightly better, not as like?
I'd say it's a little bit below Zero. I mean, gameplay-wise and stuff like that, it's a little more accessible, but story-wise, I think Zero beats it out of the park. Knocks it out of the park.
If you and the added bonus, if you played Zero, then one story is a lot more emotional, especially considering certain characters.
Yes, obviously, because there's a lot of moments in Kiwami that you wouldn't appreciate without playing Zero first. And also, when it comes to Majima everywhere encounters and sub-stories, Kiwami has a lot of references to Zero when it comes to sub-stories and Majima everywhere encounters. Like when it comes to sub-stories,
I also think most of the sub-stories aren't as memorable as they are in Zero.
Yes. Even the circuit racer sub-stories and Kiwami, I think the ones from Zero were better in my opinion. But I'm glad they brought the Pocket Circuit Racer racing from Zero to Kiwami, because that wasn't available in the original Yakuza. I loved it. It's really grading your cars and stuff like that. And also when it comes to back to the Majima Everywhere system. It's not always combat. That's what's interesting about it. Sometimes you're gonna face Majima in mini games like that card game Miss King, and sometimes he's gonna challenge you in those pocket circuit racing challenges. At first, he's a complete noob, but later on, he becomes a really strong opponent. Like he's gonna really become challenging later on. And yeah, the Majima Everywhere system is, like I said, it wasn't available in the original Yakuza, but it's interesting. Like I said, you get sick. It's either you're gonna love it or hate it. Personally, it was annoying at first, but actually it became a little annoying later on. But once you're done with it, once you complete everything, I can see it being really annoying once you fully upgraded the dragon style, because there's nothing you get out of it once you fully upgraded the dragon style, and you're gonna get a little sick of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because the main purpose of the Majima Everywhere style is to upgrade the dragon style. And another thing about the Majima Everywhere system is that each encounter with the Majima, he uses one of his 3 styles. His 4 fighting styles, which he used in Yakuza 0. It's either the Slugger, which he uses the baseball bat, or the Breaker, where he uses breakdancing moves, or the Mad Dog style, where he uses his knife. So these are cool callbacks to Zero. It's like, he's using that style. He's now using He's now okay. Okay, he's using that move. He's using that combo. So that's another reason why I think you know, you won't appreciate Kiwami unless you played Zero first.
Yeah, and that's not a hard knock to Kiwami, in my opinion. I think it's more of a positive. And again, it gives you more reason to play Zero first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
but like just because it's not as good as Zero doesn't mean it's, you know, not good.
Yeah, Kiwami's pretty good. It's just you know, it kind of pales compared to Zero, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all, and it has an engaging and an emotional story that considered alongside. You know, when it comes to story, people always say the best three in the series are Zero, 1 or Kiwami, and Kiwami 2. Those three are considered the best when it comes to story-wise. So yeah, obviously, definitely Kiwami's recommended.
Okay.
Yeah. What else is there? So yeah, even though it's shorter and you know, doesn't feel like as meaty as Zero, it's still a hell of an entertaining game. It's really good. Let's see. Even the soundtrack, I was a little disappointed about the soundtrack. It's the remixes of the original tracks from the original game. But the soundtrack, in my opinion, is like hit or miss. Some of them are better, but others are like, I prefer the original. Also, the main theme song, Receive You, it's not available on the Kiwami, which is a damn shame. Yeah, damn shame. Because I've listened to it on YouTube. I think the new cover of that game is even better than the original Receive You. But I think it was cut from the international version because something about the vocals or something having some copyright issue.
It might have been. Oh, I thought it was just like licensing.
Probably something like that. But the song is basically a cover of the original song. It's even better. It has more lyrics and sounds. There's less English than the original. Have you listened to the original Receive You?
Yes.
Yes, the original Receive You is cool, but it has a lot of English, awkward English lyrics. The new Receive You, which is called Receive You Reborn, is a lot of kick-ass. And I'm really disappointed it wasn't in the original game. But for the rest of the soundtrack, it's fairly good. Obviously, I prefer Zero's soundtrack, but that's not saying that Kiwami's, again, that's not saying that Kiwami's terrible when it comes to the soundtrack. It's good. It's good. You gotta love it. Yeah. So another aspect I forgot to talk about when it comes to sub stories, I believe unlike the original, you don't miss sub stories in certain parts of the game. I mean, sure, there are sub stories that unlocks after certain chapters, but if I'm not mistaken, in the original Yakuza, there were sub stories that you can only play them in certain parts of the in certain chapters. But if you miss those, if you completed those chapters, you can't go back to them, which really sucked if you're a completionist.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad for Kiwami you can play. You have the ability to play all the sub stories. You never miss anyone. You never miss any of them. I mean, sure, there's some of them you're gonna need a guide to learn how to unlock them, but you never miss them. You never miss them, as in once in a certain chapter you can't play this sub story and stuff like that. Also, if I'm not Also, if I'm not mistaken, the CP points system from Zero is introduced in Kiwami. That wasn't available in the original Yakuza. You know, we have to play certain mini games and eat from have meals from certain restaurants, stuff like that. That was in Zero, but that wasn't in the original Yakuza. They put that in Kiwami. In which, in Kiwami, you use the CP points to unlock certain items or abilities, which can come in handy. You can.
So yeah, I think overall, Kiwami is just like again, it's like after playing Zero, and then you go to play this much more of a smaller scale game than what you have been used to if you played Zero first. Coming into this, it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice that it's like not just Zero again.
Yes.
And I think without getting too much into the story, because I still think the story in this game is pretty solid for what it is. There's like a few instances where I'm kind of like, okay, but if there's anything else I can say, I think the story in Kiwami 2 is better.
Yeah, because I've never beaten the original 2, but I've played 80% of it, so I'm kind of familiar with the story of the 2 a little bit. But yeah, Kiwami 2, also has elements that you wouldn't story elements that you wouldn't appreciate unless you played the first Kiwami, at least.
Yeah, it's basically the same kind of deal. That's why I feel like just playing Zero, Kiwami 1, and Kiwami 2 all together is
yes, you have to. Yeah,
they all kind of
back
work.
to back. Yeah, back to back. You have to play these games back to back.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of works in that sense,
So you said the Kiwami 2. I've never got to Kiwami 2 yet, but it's almost the same length as the Kiwami 1.
Yeah, there's just a bit more. Like I said again, the Hostess Club is actually brought back. So
Yeah.
if you missed that in 1, which I kind of did, but it actually is brought back, and there's more than just one sandbox to explore. You actually go through both of the main areas.
Yes, Kamurocho and Sotenbori. Yes, just like in Zero.
Yeah, so just like in Zero. So yeah, there's a lot more to do, and the story is a bit bigger in terms of scale. I would say it's definitely the thing I'm really interested, especially hearing from you, is they did change up how the combat is.
I think I played the demo for 2 a while ago. Yeah, I think there's one style now you use.
Yeah, there's only one style now. They got rid of the whole style system.
Switching system, yes.
But instead they just gives you a lot of options and moves just to do with that one. To streamline even more. And that's kind of the thing about Kiwami 2, is it's surprisingly even streamlined further.
Interesting.
So I'm really interested whenever you get around to Kiwami 2 and end up playing it. I'm really interested to hear what you could think about that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
In any case, going back to Kiwami 1, overall, I guess, would you say that you enjoyed the game, even if the story wasn't as good as Zero's?
Probably because I've played the original, so I'm kind of aware what happens in it. But unlike Zero, which is completely, I didn't know what's going on in it, because I'm going into it completely blind. Kiwami's pretty good. It's pretty good. Maybe not as good as Zero, but that's not saying. Like I said, that's like saying a knockback against a Kiwami. Kiwami's good in its own right. Obviously, it's definitely recommended right after completing Zero. But yeah, like I said, I've repeated myself pretty much. yeah, Kiwami's good. It's pretty good. Definitely, I recommend it. But I'd say if it comes to story, obviously, like I said, Zero is a better starting point. But when it comes to gameplay and what stuff activities you do, Kiwami is a little more accessible. So it's up to you if you want when it comes to story or gameplay, which one you want to go with first. Let's see.
All right.
So let's see. Is that everything you want to talk about? So yeah, for
I think that is.
for Yakuza Kiwami 2, I think I'm gonna take a break from the series a little while. I got other games.
I don't recommend doing that. So
why?
You're good. Just because two is definitely a much more meatier game than one. So
yeah. I want to take a break from the
know.
series a little bit because I was exhausted after completing Zero, and one was a little bit of a relief. But yeah, I think after Kiwami, I'm gonna take a little break from the series. I think I'm gonna play Kiwami 2 sometime early 2021. Because I got because
maybe on that time it will also be available on the Xbox Game Pass. Who knows?
Yeah. Because I got other games that I want to get into, like Doom Eternal, and Crash 4.
So good.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into it yet. But I might play another playthrough of Doom 2016 before getting to Eternal, so I can, appreciate it more. Because I only played Doom 2016 there last year for the first time.
All right. I think that's it. Unless you have anything else, or
yeah, I mean, we're pretty much rambling in here. So before we end this, we got some. Let's get to the questions. We got a few questions to answer here. This is a segment I introduced in the previous episode, in which our audience ask us a few questions and we answer them. So let's take a few questions here. Let's go to the questions on Twitter. So we have this one from Osip Vayner. I hope I'm pronouncing their name right. They're asking, what qualities do you find appealing in a video game? Realism or quirkiness? I'm gonna let you answer first.
Easy quirkiness.
Yeah, I figured you're gonna say that. And
yeah, it's just very easy for me. If a game wants to be realistic, then they gotta sell that, and they gotta commit to that. And it's a lot harder to do that necessarily. And even a game that tries to go for realism, Heavy Rain, can become awkward, and I don't want to look at it for too long. So a game that is willing to be quirky, to be different, to actually have a unique style, I think is better in the long run. It's why I don't know. I'm super biased because most of my favorite games tend to be very quirky games. So
which is
there you go. That's my answer.
Yeah, I'd say I can't help but to agree with you actually. Yeah, I prefer quirkiness also. Because there's also another thing when it comes to realism, is that quirkiness, because with realism, it kind of starts to show its age in a few years. That's something that doesn't hold up all that great compared to quirkiness, because quirkiness has, in my opinion, has longevity in its favor.
I mean,
when it comes to age,
I'm a fan of Suda51's games, and those are the definition of quirky.
Yeah. Obviously, they're stylistically different. Doesn't aim for full realism. So, yeah, I agree with you. Quirkiness doesn't show its age as quickly as the games that focus on realism. Because with realism, yeah, like I said, yeah, in a few years, and maybe like a decade, it's gonna show its age, and it's not, and it may or may not stood the test of time all that well.
But, that said, games like The Last of Us 2 trying to be more realistic in what it wants to do makes sense. So it's not that, like, I don't think those games shouldn't exist. It's just, at the time, I'm more drawn to a game that kind of wants to do its own thing and doesn't fret from, like, being gamey.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. Because yeah,
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we were talking about like Yakuza. I think like Yakuza is just like
perfect
also
balance.
this like, okay, the graphics can look kind of realistic, but then you're doing these crazy heat moves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a good balance between realistic but also quirky. And I appreciate the series for that. It doesn't shy away from being a video game.
No.
So yeah, I appreciate games that tries to look realistic or like a movie or something. But I always have I always prefer games that try to do its own thing, like you said.
Even if that thing fails miserably, it's at least interesting to be like, oh, okay, well, at least you tried.
Yeah. Definitely.
Which is my defense for Killer is Dead, where it's like, oh, at least you try to do something different with the hack and slash. It may not be the best thing.
Yeah. I've yet to play that game.
Oh well.
Anyway,
yeah, that's a short game.
So, okay, that's about it for the Twitter questions, but let's move on to the community tab. So this one is from Dave K. He has two questions. First one, how are you doing? I'm fine, and I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. And for the second,
solid 7.
Yeah. Compared to nowadays, considering what's happening nowadays, yeah, we're doing good so far. So far, so good. For the second question is, if your main gaming system suddenly went extinct, which would you go for instead? I'm gonna answer this one first. So, for me personally, my main systems are always PlayStation systems. But if PlayStation, for whatever reason, went bankrupt or something, I might consider switching to PC. Because I don't play games all that often on PC, really. Because I come from that old mindset.
My thing.
Yeah.
My answer's kind of weird because I don't have like a main, but I guess nowadays mine is PC. Just because of all the stuff that I do and like streams and stuff like that, I some PC stuff for convenience. So I guess if somehow PC gaming just was not a thing anymore, I'd honestly probably go with Nintendo. Just go for my Switch. The Switch would be the next the main.
Yeah, I can see that because the Switch has a pretty good decent third-party support nowadays compared to like the Wii U and stuff like that. So yeah, I also have a Switch, but I haven't played it in like quite a while. But yeah, I'm a
I mean, it also helps that I'm a huge Smash Brothers fan. So like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Don't worry.
So yeah, I might consider either turning to PC or Nintendo, but it's mostly gonna be, for stuff like.
I mean, a lot of
unless
if the trend of Sony properties coming to PC continues, then yeah, you probably want to your best bet is PC.
Yeah, because unless Nintendo started distributing their games on PC,
I don't see that happening. I don't. I
No,
don't see that happening. Sorry.
no. The problem with the Nintendo is that they're really way too backwards when it comes to stuff like that. Compared
They're
to
just more old-fashioned.
yeah, old-fashioned, I'd say. Yeah. So okay. So yeah, I'd say for me personally, I'd go with the PC, but maybe Nintendo, if it has a good third-party support. Okay, so for the next one is okay, this one is basically a joke question, so you don't have to answer this one. It's by Duo. I hope I'm pronouncing their name right. He's a YTPer. His question is, why the background looks like my Windows lock screen? Well, that's because probably I think you've seen the first episode. You know what the background looks like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the synth wavy stuff like that. Yeah, I basically took that from the internet. I just did a random image search for a synth wave or something like that, and then added a few squares and stuff like that, and then the logo. So yeah, if that's why it looks like your Windows lock screen, that's because probably we're using the same image.
Or you stole this image and you're claiming that it's the same. I'm on to you.
No, I changed the color a little bit and added a few
No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the person who wrote the comment.
Oh, him. Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe you just saw this and like, you know what? I'm gonna use that as mine. So, you know?
Maybe.
Anyway, this is a dumb question.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, I know. Moving on. So this one is from. Okay, this one is a little different. I was gonna. Whoever asked this one, I was gonna tell them that we can't answer this one, but since they asked it, and because I posted in the community tab that answer any question. We're gonna answer any question you ask us, and I didn't say, and I failed to say that it has to be a video game related question. So this one is not a video game related question. So no, we get to answer it.
The fine print.
Yeah, no, it's on me. Next time I should be careful with that one. So anyway, I used to say it had to be video game related question in previous tab community post, but for this one I didn't do that. I failed. I failed to mention that, but that's okay.
Well, it's fine to at least mix it up.
Yeah.
Like sometimes.
Yeah. So this one's from I hope I'm pronouncing their name right. Lackland MC McGee. Anyway, they asked us 4 questions. The question is, do you have a favorite? 1, YouTube poop video altogether. 2, YouTube poop. 3, YTPMV, and 4, YTP tennis. So I'm gonna answer this one first. For the first YouTube video altogether, honestly, I have nothing in mind. Because the problem with
Same.
Favorite, when it's got favorite YouTube video, that's like way too broad. Like I really can't think of anything, honestly. Okay, for YouTube poop. For this one, there's a lot of one, but at least I can kind of mention a couple of them in my from the top of my head, like Corbo Productions, Fish Pins of Blair. So there's a lot of favorite YTPs from Fish Titan 64, from Gabu-chan, from Hurricoaster, Jollibro. Like I've mentioned before, Corbo Productions, Fish Pins of Blair. That's one is a classic. Obviously, if you're into Fish Pins of Blair YTPs, this one you've probably already watched. This one's like 20 minutes long. There's also a sequel of it. What else is there? Oh yeah, and Sire's YTPs of Michael Rosen. These, in my opinion, I think have compared to many Rosen YTPs, Sire's the one that stood the test of time the best, in my opinion. Okay, for YTPMVs, I'd say there's one called Real Video. It's called Real Video. Probably gonna put a link in the description. That's basically an AVGN YTPMV. I don't know what's the original BGM it's covering, but I love listening to that one every once in a while. As for YTP Tennis, my favorite is the first match between One Super Chops and Bishstein 64. The one where they used a lot of Sigas. Sigas, yeah, that guy. Yeah, that's my favorite tennis match. To me, that's like the gold standards for how you do a tennis match right. I watch this one every once in a while. Probably gonna put a link to the playlist of that match one day. No, not one day, in the description, you know. When I'm, uploading this.
Yeah.
So,
fun.
Yep.
Oh.
For you, what do you got? So, what's your favorite YouTube poop?
Okay, so
Anything from the top of your head.
Okay, at the top of my head, the one I can think of the most is from the Septic Foundry. Actually, it's like I think it's the first one he ever did of Cool Cat, but I don't know if it's like the first YTP he's ever done of
No,
Cool
I think
Cat.
I
I think it's called Cool Cat LOL.
Cool Cat.
And-
Yeah.
And I laugh every time. I think it's the YTP I've rewatched the most.
Oh yeah. I think I've seen it once. I need to rewatch it again. That and Cool Cat 2. I think they were.
Yeah.
I think they were blocked for a while by the film creator himself because of copyright and stuff like that. And he was the guy behind the Cool Cat movies is notorious for doing stuff like that on YouTube. I think there was also videos by I Hate Everything and what's it called? Your Movie Sucks or something like that. Adam. Yeah, they made videos about the Cool Cat movies, and both were blocked for a while, copyright claimed by the movie creator because of that.
But yeah, that's it. It's just always like, I don't know. It always brings a smile to my face. That and oh god, I can't think of the name, but there was this one Bob Ross YTP that I can't remember what it was. It was the first Bob Ross one that I actually found, and the name escapes me at the moment, but yeah.
Maybe I'm familiar with a lot of Bob Ross YTP, so maybe if you mention parts of it, maybe I'll remember what it was.
I think part of it had a spoiler for episode 7.
Hey, that's
Star Wars.
Wait. That's mine. I made that one.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I know. I actually really love that one.
Yeah. I honestly I hate making spoiler jokes in my work, but for this one I had to do it because it was kind of a revenge because someone in a YouTube comment spoiled that thing for me before I even watched that Star Wars movie. What is it? The Force Awakens. So it was kind of I was kind of pissed about it, but so I can't say.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It's a shame. Annotations are no longer a thing. Oops.
Yeah. I covered it with the with an annotation, but now that's no longer a thing. Yeah. What is it called?
Anyway,
Yeah.
What was the other question?
Yeah. Okay, I remember what it's called. Middle Bob Rossing the Phantom Paint. That's the one you've been talking about. I made that one back in 2016. Anyway, the other question is favorite YTPMV. Is there anything in mind?
Man, I can't think of one off the top of my head because I don't usually watch a lot. Same with the tennis. Is I'm still like I only found out what a YTP tennis was when you did it. I was like, wait, this is a thing people do?
Yep, I've seen it. There's a lot of people who are a lot more experienced with YTP tennis than I do. You know, I'm a complete noob.
So yeah, I probably can't answer the last two ones that well.
That's
or
fine.
even like at all.
That's fine.
But I can at least say that like send at me on Twitter with some suggestions of stuff that I should that like I should watch or whatever because I need to be more educated.
Oh, I'll gladly help you with that then. Because
So yeah.
I'll help you with AVG and YTP, so you never know. If you need recommendations, I'm your guy. You can ask me.
Yee.
All right.
There we go.
So I guess that's about it for the questions. We're done with the questions. So, whew, there's gonna be a lot of editing for this one. So yeah. Before that's about it for the questions, and yeah. Before we go, where can we find you on the internet?
All right. There's actually a couple places you can find me. If you like to browse Twitter, I'm on Twitter pretty frequently. At the Gumshoe Gamer, because someone took Gumshoe Gamer and I can't get that back, so it's the Gumshoe Gamer now. I also do have a website at thegumshoegamer.com.
Oh.
I also have a YouTube channel, which is Gumshoe Gamer. I don't usually post stuff that much anymore, but
Yeah, I noticed.
if you want to surf through my old videos, go ahead, feel free.
I think
I
you.
do stream on Twitch pretty regularly, so Gumshoe_gamer. And then just search my name around and you'll find a few places. But yeah, I'm on the internet, and
Okay.
that's all you need to know. Boom, nailed it.
Yep. I believe used to have a Let's Play series on the YouTube channel.
Way back. This is like 2015. No, like even further than that. There's a lot of those videos that you will never find anymore. Cause I got rid of those. But yeah, I don't do Let's Plays. The videos that are up on theirs are more review style. I don't like calling them like 100% reviews, but they kind of are. And I used to do that, but now I don't have a lot of time to do that anymore. So that's kind of on a hiatus. So
Yeah.
I can. So it's unfortunate, but life stuff happened, and I just don't have time to. I don't have time so I can dedicate to that stuff anymore.
I see. So, I guess that's about it for this episode of Backlog Banter. Gumshoe Ethan, thank you so much for being being a guest on this episode.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It was really fun. I'm glad that we got to talk about Yakuza and
Yeah, definitely.
the other kids. Oof.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to have someone to talk about this game, and I'm glad he stepped in. He accepted my invitation for this one, and who knows, you might make it into future episodes if you can.
Yeah, if the audience was like, yeah, you know that one guy you had, sure.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe.
He had good opinions.
Perhaps. Let's see if anyone in the comments agree. If anyone is gonna bother leaving comments on this one, because I'm gonna be honest that not a lot of people leave comments on my
The one comment we get is just good vid. You know, like, oh, well, if someone liked it.
Yeah, perhaps. So, that's about it for this episode of Backlog Banter. Maybe next time, I don't know. We'll see if I'm gonna get a new guest or a returning guest, or maybe two guests. I don't know. So yeah, until next.
Nah,
I'm not gonna go that far. It's gotta be too chaotic. So yeah, until next time. Wash your hands, wear a mask, practice social distancing, and stay safe. And until next time, yeah, talk to you guys later. Bye. See ya.
Bye.